Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down 3 potential buy low candidates for rebuilders in Dynasty. I have one quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. I don't have a running back because typically in a rebuild, it doesn't make any sense to go for running back early. But this is the YouTube version, and on the extended cut on my Patreon, I'm going to have a 4th bonus player that I think is the ultimate buy low in fantasy. And so the first player we're going to take a look at here is Malik Nabers. Now, he's still a young asset, so hence why I think it's a good idea to invest in him. But this would necessitate him being on a contending team's roster that's looking to replace his production. And I'm actually in one such league where I was approached about a potential trade for Malik Nabers. And that was the exact scenario where I'm rebuilding and he's contending right now. But yeah, he peaked at 91.22 points in total value, and he's currently valued at 75.32, and that's give or take about a mid to late second in total value difference from where he was at his peak. And so let's talk about his injury, right? In week 4 of this season, he suffered a torn ACL and meniscus. Now, this isn't the type of multi-ligament knee injury such as, an MCL, LCL, and ACL where it's significantly harder to project if this player will ever be able to come back to where he was, or if so, how long it'll be. A good reference would be somebody like Breece Hall, who has a clean ACL tear. He suffered his reasonably early. I believe it was actually a little bit later. I think it was about week 8 of his rookie season, and he was able to come back for the beginning of that next season. And really all that the only impacts, in my opinion, really were just that his conditioning wasn't quite what it was pre-injury, but the long speed is still there, and he still looks like an awesome player. So I think that's a reasonably decent comp, even though they played different positions. But the return timeline is going to be at the beginning of this next season. So if you're, in a rebuild and you're looking to potentially try to start contending next season, I think that that's a pretty good buy for you. And then obviously, if it's still a multi-year thing, he's still very, very young. He's not even 24 years old yet. So he's going to be around for a significant amount of time for us in Dynasty. And another thing I want to mention is Jackson Dart, his new quarterback, at least in my opinion, but I think it's a reasonably wide-held belief. He looks like a franchise quarterback, and we haven't seen Malik Nabers with Jackson Dart yet, really. He's worked with the ghost of Russell Wilson, Tommy DeVito, Drew Lock, Daniel Jones with no offensive line, and he still performed like a top-level wide receiver. Another thing I want to mention is he's a bit of a diva. He wants volume, and he will let you know if you aren't giving him enough volume. Now, and I do not mean that as an attack on him. From a fantasy perspective, that's exactly what we want. We want somebody who demands the ball, who's going to score points for us. A lot of your top shelf wide receivers, A.J. Brown comes to mind, even though he's having a bit of a down year. If he's not getting the football, he's going to let them know. That's awesome for us. So that's a huge plus in my opinion. And, even he's really the only wide receiver there that's an above average talent in my opinion by NFL standards, right? Darius Slayton's a fine deep threat. Wan'Dale's a good vertical slot, but nothing top shelf. But even I don't think there's a wide receiver in this draft that is remotely as talented as Malik Nabers. Although I think there are some very talented wide receivers coming out, but Malik Nabers is almost assuredly going to be the wide receiver 1, and we haven't even seen him with this new potential franchise quarterback. Now, getting into a couple of trades that you could potentially make. Malik Nabers was shipped off for Nico Collins. Now, Nico Collins is significantly older. He has a significant injury history. If I have Nico Collins and I'm on a rebuilding team and I can flip him for Malik Nabers, once again, these are real trades that have been completed in Dynasty Daddy. I'm doing that immediately. Another trade, Rashee Rice for Malik Nabers in a second. Now, you may like Rashee Rice just as much, more or less. In my opinion, a healthy Nabers, if he comes back and he's healthy like I think he's going to next season, I would take him straight up over Rashee Rice. He's younger. I think he has a much higher ceiling. He is a ridiculous athlete. But if I'm getting a second-round pick on top of that, I'm smashing that personally. And that was also done in a 12-team league. Now, in a 10-team league, Malik Nabers was sold for T. Higgins, a second and a third. If I have T. Higgins, I'm getting younger with Malik Nabers. And even if I'm giving up potentially an early second and an early third at worst, I think that's a significant value for Malik Nabers. And so once again, you may not be able to get these trades completed. You may not have players like this, but I think if you have anyone that remotely resembles some of these assets and you can get Malik Nabers for them, or even an extra pick on top, I'm smashing that immediately. Now, the second player we're going to take a look at here is Jayden Daniels, the quarterback for the Commanders. So he had that brutal arm injury, but it's to his left arm, not his throwing arm. But then the other thing is, while he theoretically could return from IR in a lost season that I don't think the Commanders really have a chance of making the playoffs, I don't really understand why they would put their quarterback in harm's way. It really just doesn't make sense to me. And when we take a look at his total value change, he's gone down about 26, 13 points. That's the equivalency of, about a mid-second to late second in total value. He's also slipped from being what some people consider the QB1 in Dynasty to the QB4 in terms of consensus. I think this is a prime opportunity to pounce and acquire Jayden Daniels. Now, once again, when we talk about the injury, it was a left elbow dislocation, so it's not his throwing arm. That is absolutely crucial. Now, the surgery, he doesn't need any, so we do like that. And then also, while yes, it's possible he could return in week 13 as the team's bye week is week 12, as this says, once again, I just don't understand why that makes any sense for the Commanders in real life. I mean, why would you bring him back in a lost season? You could have him get really seriously injured. He's a franchise quarterback, and he's not even 25 years old yet. I just cannot imagine, I cannot fathom that they would actually have him play pointless games. And so let's go through a couple of trades that were made today in real leagues. So we have Rodriguez, Herbert, and Washington for Jayden Daniels. So with Rodriguez, low draft capital running back, I think he's pretty replaceable and probably is replaced next season. Parker Washington, somebody who has to contend with Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas, next season Travis Hunter. I don't really think he's going to be a relevant fantasy player for us without injuries. And then Justin Herbert, who I think is a good sell high candidate. Omarion Hampton's been out, so they've been throwing the ball significantly more. I think that decreases reasonably with the return of Omarion Hampton after the bye. So I think you could be selling high on Herbert and selling two pieces that in a rebuild I don't really think help you at all, and getting significantly younger, about 3 years younger at quarterback, while also having somebody that flashed extreme high-end upside as a rookie. In the next trade, we have Justin Herbert in a second for Jayden Daniels. So this is a 26 second. Unless you're getting an early 26 second, I don't think that the class is really deep enough for that pick to really be significant, in my opinion. And then Justin Herbert, once again, who I think is a sell-high candidate for Jayden Daniels. So I did happen to find two trades that involve Justin Herbert, but if you could sell a quarterback that's, older than Jayden Daniels, that's generally in that range, or especially if lower than that range, and attach something that's not really that significant, I would be attaching that easily to get Jayden Daniels. And even if, for instance, that second was early, I still think that is a worthwhile trade, because as of right now, I can't really think of 13 players in this 26 class that I would be really that excited about. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, AOYOB, and The Dawn. Without your support, this would not be possible. As you're probably well aware if you've been watching my videos for a while, I cannot get monetized because of the film breakdowns I do, and even just the little videos I have where I have clips of plays in them. They get demonetized every single time, making it, therefore, impossible to collect any revenue. So, obviously, your support is greatly appreciated. And if you are so inclined to become a member, the perks would be you will get access to a private Discord where we have both a real life and fantasy football chat, as well as a voice chat if you just don't want to have to type a bunch of stuff. I'll also give you detailed roster breakdowns and roster reviews where we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of your team. Then we kind of break it down further by looking into the scoring settings themselves and the starting lineup requirements to help you build the best team to help you dominate for years to come. In both Dynasty and then in redraft, obviously, I'd help you with a good solid game plan, especially if you know where you're drafting from. Then also give you detailed trade advice based on your specific league settings to help you dominate. Also give you access to private live streams and the ability to not only see videos at least one day early, but also the ability to suggest videos that you would like to be created. So if you would like to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. If not, just please like and subscribe. Let's get back to the video. And the final candidate that I think you could potentially buy low on is Sam LaPorta. Now, his injury was recent and he was just put on IR. But if a contending team had LaPorta and they're looking to, and they need to fill that tight end production, and they don't have somebody that they can throw in that's going to give them, close to the same points per game, I think he is a fantastic buy low candidate. And I think that his value in general is going to plummet the more time in which he misses this season. So this potentially could even be a better buy opportunity for you right before your league trade deadlines if they're a little, a couple weeks into the future here. And so taking a look at his injury, it's described as a back injury that's not really very descriptive, but it was bad enough for him to be put on IR. So must be reasonably painful for him and debilitating. Now, the earliest he could theoretically come back is week 15. I've seen people selling LaPorta in some of my leagues. Somebody got a first and a second for LaPorta in a 12-team start 10, I think, half-point premium for tight ends. So he is being sold in leagues, and just because he could return in week 15 doesn't mean that he is going to. And somebody that's fighting for the playoffs might be looking to sell LaPorta in your leagues, and you could potentially pounce and then have a reasonably high upside tight end and a good offense for years and years to come. And once again, I can't guarantee that you can or cannot complete these trades, but if it's possible for you, I'm doing them immediately. And so LaPorta was sold in a 12-team start 9, half-point tight end premium for George Kittle in a 4th. Kittle, while also a very high upside tight end, is, I believe, he's at least 32, but he might be 33 now. He's at the end of his career, and while he is producing for us, I think if you could get significantly younger, that's a win for you. And then even if it's an early 4th, a 4th-round pick, the hit rate on that is so insignificant that that's an easy throw-in. The next trade that was also made today, Ferguson for LaPorta straight up. When, everybody else is injured on the offense, Jake Ferguson is a high upside tight end, but Sam LaPorta can be a high upside tight end even if nobody's injured in the offense and younger. So I would be going easily for the LaPorta side. And also in a 12-team start 10, we had Woody Marks for Sam LaPorta. Woody Marks, I like him as a talent, but he's a low draft capital running back. He could easily be replaced. And one severe injury to him, and I really don't think he has any value. If I can get Sam LaPorta for Woody Marks, I am smashing that in a rebuild easily. And so to review, 3 players that I think are good buy low candidates for rebuilders in Dynasty are Malik Nabers, Jayden Daniels, and Sam LaPorta. Remember with Malik Nabers, it was an ACL and meniscus injury, not a multi-ligament injury such as, an LCL and MCL where it would be much harder to project the explosiveness potentially coming back. Players like Breece Hall are a good example of that similar type of injury. Jayden Daniels, non-throwing arm. He potentially could come back, but I don't understand why the Commanders would risk him getting further injured in a lost season. And then Sam LaPorta, who, while he definitely has a chance to return for the fantasy playoffs, somebody that's a contender, or especially if they're a fringe playoff team and they're trying to make a push, might be looking to sell LaPorta as well. And so, yeah, where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Do you have any other buy low candidates that potentially I didn't even mention in this video? If so, put them below in the comment section. I'm curious if anybody has, some good thoughts on this. So once again, if you are a Patreon member, I'm going to be adding my favorite buy low candidate, somebody that I didn't mention in this YouTube version. But I think that all 3 of these guys, once again, are very, very, very good buy lows if you are a rebuilding team in Dynasty. So yeah, if you would like to become a Patreon member, I'm going to leave that link below in the comment section if you do not wish to or cannot. If you could just like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment below, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.